The entire beach went silent for 3 seconds. A bikini strap snapped. Several men stared. Some laughed. One man immediately turned away. And that tiny decision would change 2 lives forever. But to understand why that moment mattered so much, you need to know who Ethan Walker really was. Nobody noticed Ethan Walker when he walked into the office every morning. And honestly, that was exactly how he liked it. At 38 years old, Ethan wasn't chasing promotions, attention, or office politics. He was chasing survival. Every morning started at 5:30 a.m. Before most people even opened their eyes, Ethan was already packing lunches, checking homework, and making breakfast for his 8-year-old daughter, Lily. 3 years earlier, his world had collapsed. His wife had passed away unexpectedly, leaving him alone to raise their daughter. Since then, every day felt like a balancing act over a cliff. One missed paycheck, one emergency, one bad decision, and everything could come crashing down. Most nights, after Lily fell asleep, Ethan sat alone at the kitchen table. The house was quiet. The bills weren't. Rent notices, medical expenses, school fees. The stack seemed to grow faster than he could pay it. Still, he never complained. Because every time he felt like giving up, he looked at a photo of Lily smiling. And suddenly quitting wasn't an option anymore. At work, Ethan kept his head down. He showed up early, finished projects on time, avoided drama, and stayed far away from office gossip, especially when it involved his boss, Sophia Bennett, the CEO, successful, powerful, respected, the kind of woman who seemed completely in control of everything. At least that's what everyone believed. Most employees saw confidence when they looked at Sophia. Ethan saw something different. Exhaustion, loneliness, a sadness that appeared for just a second whenever she thought nobody was watching. But he never thought much about it. She lived in one world. He lived in another. Their paths rarely crossed. Then the company announced its annual retreat, a luxury resort overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Everyone celebrated. Everyone except Ethan. Because while his co-workers talked about cocktails and beach parties, Ethan worried about something else. Who would take care of Lily? After several stressful phone calls and more money than he could comfortably spend, he finally arranged childcare. Then he boarded the company bus and headed toward the coast. He had no idea that the trip was about to become the most important weekend of his life. Not because of a promotion, not because of money, but because of a single moment that would reveal the true character of everyone standing on that beach. And when Sophia Bennett found herself unexpectedly vulnerable in front of dozens of employees, only one man would react differently than everyone else. What Ethan did next shocked Sophia so deeply that she would spend the rest of the weekend trying to understand the man who looked away when everyone else stared. The next afternoon, the company gathered on the beach. Music played through outdoor speakers. Employees laughed. Some played volleyball. Others relaxed under umbrellas with drinks in their hands. For the first time all weekend, Ethan felt slightly out of place. He stood near the shoreline, watching the waves roll in. His thoughts weren't on the retreat. They were on Lily. He wondered if she had finished her homework, if she remembered to take her medicine, if she missed him as much as he missed her. Then it happened. A strong wave crashed against the shore. Several employees stumbled backward. Sophia lost her balance for a split second, and before she could react, one side of her bikini top slipped loose. The moment lasted only seconds, but it felt much longer. Several people noticed immediately. A few men stared. Someone laughed. Another employee pulled out a phone. The atmosphere shifted instantly. Sophia's face turned pale. Embarrassment hit her like a truck. For one painful second, she froze. Then she looked around, and that's when she saw something unexpected. Ethan wasn't looking. In fact, he had already turned toward the ocean, his eyes fixed on the horizon as if nothing had happened. No staring, no smirking, no awkward jokes, just respect. Pure and simple. Sophia quickly fixed the strap. The laughter died down. Conversations resumed. But something inside her had changed. For the rest of the afternoon, she couldn't stop thinking about what she had seen. Or rather, what she hadn't seen. Most people claimed to be respectful. Very few actually were when nobody was watching. Hours later, as the sun began to set, employees gathered around a beach bonfire. The mood was relaxed. Stories were shared. Drinks were passed around. Ethan sat quietly near the edge of the group, exactly where he preferred to be. Then Sophia walked over. Several employees immediately noticed. The CEO rarely approached people first, especially not junior staff members. "Ethan," she said softly. He looked up. "Yes, ma'am." Sophia hesitated. For a moment, she seemed unsure of herself. That alone surprised him. Then she finally spoke. "I wanted to thank you." Ethan frowned. For what? She gave a small smile. You know for what. Suddenly, he understood. Oh, an awkward silence followed. Sophia stared into the fire. You'd be surprised how rare basic respect is. Ethan shrugged. My father taught me something when I was young. Sophia waited. He continued. He said a man's character shows up when nobody would blame him for doing the wrong thing. The words hit her harder than he realized, because lately she had started believing people only behaved well when it benefited them. Yet here was a man who expected nothing, wanted nothing, and still chose kindness. For the first time in years, Sophia felt her guard drop. Just a little. Meanwhile, Ethan had no idea their conversation was being watched. Several co-workers whispered among themselves. Curious, confused, wondering why the CEO seemed so interested in the quiet single father nobody usually noticed. But Sophia wasn't thinking about office gossip. She was thinking about something else entirely. For years, people had admired her position, her money, her success, yet almost nobody had treated her like a human being first. Ethan had, without even trying, without knowing he was being watched, without expecting a reward. And that made him different, very different. As the bonfire burned lower, Sophia found herself asking questions she hadn't expected. Who was Ethan Walker? Why did he seem so tired all the time? Why did sadness follow him everywhere he went? And why did she suddenly want to know the answers? The next morning, Sophia would accidentally discover the secret Ethan had been hiding from everyone at work, and it would completely change the way she saw him forever. The next morning, Sophia would accidentally discover the secret Ethan had been hiding from everyone at work, and it would completely change the way she saw him forever. The retreat's final day started earlier than expected. Sophia woke up before sunrise. Unable to sleep, she grabbed a coffee and walked through the quiet resort grounds. The beach was nearly empty. Most employees were still asleep. As she passed the hotel lobby, something caught her attention. Ethan sat alone in a corner chair. His laptop was open. A notebook rested beside him, and he looked exhausted. Not normal tired. Completely drained. Sophia was about to walk past when she heard his voice. Soft, gentle, the kind of voice she had never heard him use at work. Hey, sweetheart. Sophia stopped. Ethan was on a video call. A little girl appeared on the screen. She couldn't have been older than 8. The child smiled. Dad, when are you coming home? Ethan smiled back instantly. And for the first time, Sophia saw genuine happiness on his face. Tonight, kiddo. Promise. I promise. The girl nodded. Then she held up a drawing. Ethan's eyes lit up. It's beautiful. I made it for us. Sophia quietly stepped away before he noticed her. But her heart felt strangely heavy. She had worked with Ethan for almost 3 years. Yet she never knew he was raising a child alone. Suddenly everything made sense. The exhaustion, the overtime requests, the constant worry in his eyes, the quiet determination. Back at the office the following week, life returned to normal, or at least it appeared to. Then one Tuesday afternoon, Ethan received a phone call. The school nurse. His daughter was sick, very sick. Within minutes, he was rushing out of the office. No explanations, no hesitation, only panic. The next few days became a nightmare. Lily developed a serious infection. Nothing life-threatening, but serious enough to require constant care. Ethan barely slept, barely ate, and missed several days of work. Every absence felt like a ticking clock. Every missed hour felt dangerous. Because people like Ethan couldn't afford mistakes. When he finally returned to the office, he expected bad news. A warning, a disciplinary meeting, maybe even termination. Instead, he found a note on his desk. Come see me when you arrive. Sophia. His stomach dropped. The walk to her office felt longer than usual. He knocked. Come in. Sophia looked up from her desk. How's your daughter? Ethan blinked. That wasn't what he expected. She's getting better. Good. Silence followed. Then Sophia surprised him again. I adjusted your schedule. Ethan frowned. What? You'll work flexible hours for a while. He stared at her, certain he had misunderstood. I don't want special treatment. Sophia shook her head. It's not special treatment. Then she leaned forward. It's called being a parent. For a moment, Ethan couldn't speak. Nobody had ever said that to him before. Most people saw his responsibilities as a problem, an inconvenience, a weakness. Sophia saw something different. Responsibility, sacrifice, strength. Over the next few weeks, small things began to change. Not dramatic things, human things. Sophia started asking about Lily. Ethan found himself sharing stories. The funny ones, the difficult ones, the moments that made being a father worth every sacrifice. And surprisingly, Sophia listened, really listened. One evening, while everyone else had gone home, they found themselves working late together. The office was quiet. Rain tapped softly against the windows. You ever regret it? Sophia suddenly asked. Ethan looked up. Regret what? Giving up so much. He thought about the question, then smiled. Every difficult day. Sophia laughed. Then Ethan added quietly, and not a single day at the same time. For some reason, that answer stayed with her. Because while Ethan worried about losing everything, she had spent years wondering why success still felt empty. One had sacrificed comfort for love. The other had sacrificed love for success. And both were starting to realize there might be another way. What neither of them knew was that a much bigger challenge was coming. One capable of destroying careers, trust, and everything they had slowly begun to build. 3 days later, a company scandal would place Sophia's entire future at risk, and Ethan would be forced to make a decision that could cost him the job he desperately needed. 3 days later, a company scandal would place Sophia's entire future at risk, and Ethan would be forced to make a decision that could cost him the job he desperately needed. The news broke on a Thursday morning. By lunchtime, the entire office was in chaos. Rumors spread through hallways. Phones buzzed nonstop. Employees whispered behind closed doors. A major project had failed. Millions of dollars were potentially at risk. And because Sophia had approved the project, the board of directors wanted answers. Fast. For the first time since Ethan had known her, Sophia looked shaken. Not angry, not confident, not in control, just exhausted. The pressure was relentless. Media inquiries, emergency meetings, investors demanding explanations. The woman who always carried everyone else's burdens suddenly had nobody carrying hers. Or so she thought. Late that evening, long after most employees had gone home, Ethan noticed the light still on in Sophia's office. He walked past the door, then stopped. Sophia sat alone at her desk. Stacks of reports surrounded her. Her head rested in her hands. For a moment, she looked less like a CEO and more like a person fighting not to fall apart. Ethan knocked softly. She looked up. You should go home. He smiled slightly. You first. For the first time all day, Sophia laughed. A tired laugh, but a real one. Over the next several days, Ethan volunteered for extra work. Not because he wanted recognition, not because he expected a reward, because he believed in her. Together, they reviewed documents, checked reports, prepared presentations, and slowly uncovered the truth. The failure wasn't Sophia's fault. Critical information had been hidden by a senior executive trying to protect his own position. Once the evidence surfaced, everything changed. The board launched an investigation. The responsible executive resigned, and Sophia's reputation was cleared. The crisis was over. But something far more important had happened during those long nights. Trust had become friendship, and friendship had quietly become something deeper. A few weeks later, Sophia received an invitation that surprised her. A birthday party. Lily's 9th birthday. At first, she wasn't sure whether she should go. Then she remembered something Ethan once told her. The people who show up matter. So she showed up. The party wasn't fancy. No expensive decorations. No luxury venue. Just a small backyard filled with laughter. Children running through sprinklers. Homemade cake. Simple happiness. And somehow, it felt more genuine than any event Sophia had attended in years. Lily immediately took her hand. Dad talks about you. Sophia nearly choked on her lemonade. Oh, he does. The little girl nodded. You're his friend. Sophia glanced across the yard. Ethan was watching them, smiling. For the first time in a long time, he looked peaceful. Months passed. Life wasn't perfect. Bills still existed. Work remained stressful. Challenges continued to appear. But something fundamental had changed. Neither of them faced those challenges alone anymore. One evening, almost exactly a year after the beach retreat, Ethan and Sophia stood overlooking the ocean. The same waves, the same horizon, but everything felt different. Sophia smiled. It's funny. What is? If that wave hadn't happened, we probably wouldn't even be standing here. Ethan laughed. Probably not. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Sophia looked at him. You know what I remember most? What? She smiled softly. The fact that you looked away. Ethan shrugged. It wasn't a big deal. Sophia shook her head. Maybe not to you. Her eyes met his. But sometimes the smallest choices reveal the biggest truths about who we are. The sun slowly disappeared beyond the horizon. And for the first time in years, both of them felt something they thought life had taken away forever. Hope. Because in the end, this was never really a story about a beach accident, or a company retreat, or even two people finding each other. It was a story about character, about choosing respect when nobody is watching, about kindness that expects nothing in return, and about how one small act of decency can change the course of a life. Sometimes even two lives. The world changes because of grand gestures, but hearts change because of small ones. And sometimes, all it takes is one moment of respect to remind someone they are seen, valued, and human.